You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome in and welcome all. We are back and week 4 is officially finished. It is Tuesday, the 30th of September. It is the Inside NFL podcast and we've got our waiver wire show for you tonight. I'm your host, Mullin, and joining me is a nice little duo tandem and the guy that I just can't seem to get a win against in any of my leagues. Maverick, mate, how are you feeling? You are the champion. I will concede defeat. I'm 0-2 against you this year, and it just doesn't look like that'll change anytime soon. But how are you feeling after week 4, and how'd you go in your other leagues besides putting me to the sword?
Yeah, overall pretty good. I think I won majority of the leagues that I was in this week, so that's a positive result. But 4-0 in our Insight Creators Championship. 4-0 sitting pretty. I win against you as well on the board, so always feeling a bit better when I come into week 4. Any way can beat either you, Secko, or DFAB. I just play fantasy to beat you boys, so any week of beating you guys is fantastic. So let's keep this rolling.
Yeah, I'm the same. I had that matchup circled, and I was like, if I lose every single one but win this one, I'd be okay. So yeah, now I'm just ready to get into week 5, but this is the show to do it. We will be covering through all of our waiver wire targets as we get to the first week of buys as well. We'll cover the teams that are on buys, quick little injury update, and we'll also recap the final 2 games that took place today. But in case you missed last night's week 4 review, the link is in the description below. We kind of covered a lot of the games that were finished up until this point, and then also went through the major injuries that occurred throughout most of the week. And our week 5 trade-ins and trade-outs show for Supercoach will go live tomorrow at 7:30. And as always, each week that show is an absolute beast. But with that being said, I think we'll just run straight into the injuries, Mav, and get this show on the road. So get the broken legs out. Speaking of broken legs, how about dislocated knees? Tyreek Hill rushed off to hospital midway through the game today against the Jets. By all accounts, yeah, dislocated knee. Still to be confirmed with what the timeline will look like. But yeah, horrible to see for the Dolphins. He had a pretty decent game too, or was shaping up to be there. Yeah, 6 for 67 on 6 targets. So looking to bounce back, but unfortunately left the game early with that injury. How are you feeling about this one, Mav, for the Dolphins? And does this just open things up completely for Jalen Waddle?
Well, I mean, it should, shouldn't it? It really should. It's really setting up for the A-Chain and Waddle show. Possibly a Darren Waller resurgence, possibly in there as well, which we saw sort of today. So, yeah, Waddle probably should be inserted into all lineups. I mean, Tyreek Hill's probably done for the year, I'd imagine, and maybe even for his career. Looked awful. So I'll wait to see what comes out of it when we get more information. But yeah, mate, definitely should be Waddle and A-Chain should be the most. Well, should be if Tua's healthy, they should be fine. But really, yeah, right. Waddle's the one, isn't he? So if you can get him on the cheap, sure. But after this news, I don't think you're going to get him on the cheap. So one to look at. Maybe if he has a bad week next week, he can maybe pounce. But yeah, it is shaping up to be a 2-horse race, I reckon, for a lot of the competition there.
Yeah, very well could be, and that is what it's looking like. We'll have a little name later on when we get to the wide receiver segment, which might play a role with this subtraction of Tyreek Hill. But we absolutely hate to see it. If he's out for the year, I mean, we'll have studs, Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Joe Burrow, James Conner. The injury list is getting too long for my liking, being only a month into the season, and another injury it'll keep growing, and we don't know the severity of this next injury, but it also took place in the same game. Running back for the New York Jets, Braylon Allen, injured his knee, and he was ruled out pretty quickly for the remainder of the game after that. So again, we're not too sure of the severity as of yet. We'll find out more news tomorrow when we get it, and we'll plug that on tomorrow night's show. But yeah, this one here, I mean, the runway is well and truly clear as well for Breece Hall. I mean, Braylon Allen, he only had 4 for 26 in this game, but it was shaping up. He did fumble on the goal line as well, so he could have had a much better day before he went out. But I mean, we were talking about it quickly, Mav, before we went live, but it sounds like you're very keen on Breece Hall moving forward, and they've got a pretty good matchup for week 5.
Oh, man, I'm very keen. He's actually had a sneaky good year, Breece Hall. He's a bit quiet in weeks 2 and 3, but like seriously, like if he gets more touches, like he did previously in like 2023 and 2024, I suppose pre-ACL, oh, post-ACL, should I say, sorry. He really could go bonkers. He was awesome today. Still didn't find the end zone for a touchdown. But they do have the Cowboys next week, and the Cowboys have been just literally just breeding fantasy points to opposition players. Any position really, doesn't matter what position. They don't discriminate. So it should be a really, really big game for Fields. Breece Hall, you'd imagine, should run one in for a touchdown at some point. Imagine, especially if Braylon Allen misses, you'd imagine that he should get majority of the work. And yeah, if Braylon Allen misses, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, depending on how bad this knee injury is, and Breece Hall could be going to the moon, could be a top, 15 RB.
Yeah, and he might be one that you might be able to trade for maybe a little bit easier than Jalen Waddle with that, because again, Braylon Allen, the injury didn't look as devastating as what Tyreek Hill suffered, but they've still got Isaiah Davis. He was getting a little bit of a look in there. Surely he doesn't take that goal line work away from Breece Hall if Braylon Allen does miss. We'd absolutely hate to see that, but one to watch out and see how that plays out for the Jets backfield. Ricky Pearsall, this one's just a bit of an update. He did injure his knee in week 4, and there is a chance because they do have a short turnaround. The 49ers, they're coming up against the Rams on Thursday Night Football to start week 5. With that, it does lower his chances to start. So one to also monitor on that. And Cedric Tillman, hamstring injury for the Cleveland Browns, wide receiver there. He was also ruled out of the game as well. And those hamstring injuries could be three or so weeks by the time he gets back in. So yeah, that just kind of opens up a little bit more of that pie for the Cleveland Browns, even though Flacco's targets have been absolutely woeful the last couple of weeks. But with this here on Cedric Tillman, Mav, is there anyone in particular that you think will benefit with this injury out? I mean, I think Jerry Jeudy had 9 targets in that game after he went out, but I think he only caught 3. So again, Joe Flacco's targets just may not be worth anything at all.
Well, yeah, it is. Joe Flacco has been pretty average for like, he's doing a job, don't get me wrong. But we're not seeing any fantasy production out of any wide receiver, any tight end. Fannin has been average. Njoku, Fannon's had 1 week, to be fair. Njoku hasn't really got going yet. Jerry Jeudy hasn't really got going yet. So Tillman's probably had the most fantasy value outside of Judkins at the moment. So yeah, I can't imagine would be running to the waiver wire trying to pick up a wide receiver instantly. But yeah, it's definitely one to monitor if you do own Flacco in Superflex leagues. What do they do? Does Jerry Jeudy start popping off? We'll soon see, I suppose. But it doesn't really get me too excited for anyone. Still, nothing increases for me.
Yeah, maybe Judkins, if anything, sees a little more targets. He's really been the only one that you can start for that Browns team. And other injuries as well that we have here. Malik Neighbors, of course, it was confirmed that he did tear his ACL, so he's done for the year, and he'll most likely miss the start of next year. Lamar Jackson, IJ's thrown in here quickly, and I will just get to that while we are on the injuries. There hasn't been any update on if Lamar will miss the upcoming week. So again, one to watch out. Usually tomorrow, so Tuesday over in the States, we'll have a bit more of an idea on how this will play out, but we'll be sure to cover updates.
Well, they did say he couldn't return regardless of the result, so I don't know if they're just trying to play funny buggers and try and downplay it a little bit, but it seemed pretty genuine. You don't say that unless you're confident that he's okay. So it seems like it could be a couple of weeks on the sidelines, and if he does miss any time, it's going to take a big hit to the whole offense, man. It is. I'm not sure who their backup is these days, but
Cooper Rush.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. The Cowboys legend himself.
Yeah.
No, look, Zay Flowers takes a massive hit. Honestly, Derrick Henry takes a massive hit too. He's going to see a lot more work. And to be fair, he's been pretty average this year. I mean, yards per carry hasn't been that bad, I suppose, but like scoring wise in fantasy football this year has not been the Derrick Henry that we know of. So I'm wondering if there's a bit of a decline happening there with Derrick Henry. It's about time too. I mean, it's incredible he's been so good for so long, but the whole offense is going to be seriously hurt if Lamar misses any time. And yeah, as I said, it could very well be true.
Yeah, and they've got the Texans this week as well at home. But I also saw one of their defensive ends, he's ruled out for the year, Matabuke or something like that, I think his name was. Yeah, neck injury, he's ruled out, one of their best defensive players. So, yeah, they're going to be struggling from both sides of the ball. Hopefully, Derrick Henry can bounce back and he can carry some of the load while Lamar, if he does miss time. And I will just quickly throw in here, Bobby Vito, is Terry McLaurin droppable? Also, again, with Terry, they are still confirming his quad injury to see if he will miss this week. But in terms of traditional fantasy, hold on to Terry McLaurin. Your bench should be deep enough. And he would have been a round 5 or so pick at the least. So make sure you hold on to him. Probably earlier as well, yeah. So just hold on to him and yeah, show some patience. Yeah, don't be dropping Terry just yet. That's really it for the injuries as of now. But of course, we will be checking through and updating this tomorrow night for our show to see if anything progresses. But we'll get into our final games of week 4 rewind. So starting off today, the final 2 games, 9:15 a.m. over here in Australia. The New York Jets went to Miami and they lost 27-21. From the Jets side of the ball, Justin Fields first came back from that concussion that he dealt with a couple of weeks ago, and he put up 226 and 1 through the air, but on the ground, 7 for 81 and a score, and he ran for a 43-yarder as well. So he just looks in great form, especially rushing the ball and in terms of rushing production as well. Breece Hall, 14 for 81 on the ground, very efficient at 5.8 a carry, added 5 for 30 through the air. And Garrett Wilson through the air, 6 for 82 and a touchdown on 8 targets. And Mason Taylor, a guy who will be getting a mention later on in our tight end waiver wire targets, 5 for 65 on 7 targets. So it really looks like it's a 3-headed beast, or 4-headed beast rather, with Mason Taylor there for the New York Jets. How are you feeling about the Jets in this one, Mav? I know they didn't quite get the win. Probably the Braylon Allen fumble was the difference when they got to the goal line there to start the game early. But yeah, what were your key takeaways here on the Jets side of the ball?
Well, I'm actually shocked the Jets are 0-4, if I'm being honest with you. Again, they're probably a better side than 0-4, but again, it's the Jets, and this is what they do. They lose games of football, have been for decades now. Not decades, but at least a decade. They've been losing games of football. It's been a while since they've come out and had a winning season. So that's one thing. And they should have won today's game, to be fair. They came against a team that was defeated nearly and lost one of their best players in Tyreek Hill and still couldn't get it done. So it's a concern. But in fantasy football, on everyone's side of on the Jets side of the field, you know, we obviously with the Braylon Allen injury, obviously Breece Hall, massive uptick in work. You know, had a pretty good game today. A lot of, 5 catches to go with it too, so a few dump offs. You know, Justin Fields looks like he's a pretty safe option for fantasy football at the moment. Looks like his rushing upside is still really, really good, which we expected coming into the year. But his passing work still needs a bit of work. But we expected this coming into the year. We weren't sure on his passing work, but again, 226 is okay. Garrett Wilson's the only real focal point in the offense through the air, out of the wide receiver room, and Mason Taylor, I suppose we'll get to him a bit later on, but I don't know, he could be a real boom or bust player. Well, the boom could be very little compared to his past.
Yeah, very, very true. And I think Garrett Wilson, it's just great to see how consistent he's been. Even with Jets, with Justin Fields there and his, lack of pass attempts usually, but he's getting all the work. He's had 3 scores now over 20 points. So you absolutely love to see that in terms of fantasy. And on the Dolphins side of the ball, of course, Tyreek Hill did dislocate his knee during this game. He had 6 for 67 through the air on 6 targets. Jalen Waddle, 3 for 48 on 6 targets. And Darren Waller was 3 for 27 on He also added 2 touchdowns as well with a couple of his grabs. So yeah, he took away from the guys that were needed the most. And Darren Waller's definitely out there available on waivers. And Tua in this game, 177 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. And then Devon Achane had a big game here on the ground, which you usually don't see. He normally cleans up during the receiving game, but 20 carries, 99 yards, and a score. I think he only had 1 catch for 2 yards as well, which is a bit odd for Devon Achane. Besides that, Ollie Gordon 6 for 10, didn't really offer you much whatsoever. And also Malik Washington, who might get a little mention later on, he didn't really do as much as well. But this game was looking pretty dirty by that point. But Dolphins side of the ball for you, Mav, of course, Tyreek Hill, that's the main storyline for this game. And then also Achane definitely getting all the carries and some good groundwork in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie Gordon was pretty crap. I mean, saw limited work, but couldn't do much with that limited work. So they just sort of let Achane go about his work, and yeah, he was really good. Had 20 rushing attempts, which has been season high for him so far, by far a season high of rushing attempts. And his next best was last week with 12. So uptick in work there, and still running at nearly 5 yards per carry. So pretty efficient with his work there on the ground. Outside of that, I mean, Waddle, again, not too great, but again, we're expecting him to take a real step forward with his workload for week 5 onwards. So he should be trending with green arrows for the future. And then obviously you got the Walrus. Welcome back, the Walrus. He's back. First came back, had 2 tutties. He's probably thinking, why did I ever retire? But he's back in the work, back in the action, and I only saw the four targets, but it looks like he's a bit of a red zone threat for him when they get in that area and they have to throw the ball. So he could be the number 1 target in the red zone for the Dolphins if they have to throw the ball, because I don't think Waddle's that guy personally. And Westbrook and Keeney would be another one too. He had a good year in the red zone last year for the Titans. So let's see if he gets inserted into the action for the Finns. But outside of that, they haven't really got much else in the red zone to look for. So we'll mention Weiler a bit later on, but he could be a nice little cheap piece to get for a depth tight end, really.
Yeah, the big Walrus, big 6'6". God, he's an absolute behemoth of a man there. So, yeah, you're right. Could be a nice little tight end streamer week in, week out with that touchdown upside. The last game that we had here for week 4, the Bengals went to Denver and got absolutely smoked by the Broncos, 28-3 in this one. And we'll start off negatively. The Bengals side of the ball here, this was a very tough watch. I was tuning in and out throughout the day while I was working. I caught the highlights when I got home. But the Bengals team on offense, they had more penalties than they did first downs, which is just absolutely mind-blowing with this team. I mean, they're you can tell they're genuinely limited with their offensive line being bottom 3 in the league. And of course, they're on their second-string quarterback. But those penalties just completely killed their drive. Penalties would happen early, and they're pushed back to 2nd and long or 3rd and long, and they just can't really do anything about it with this one. And running through the plays here, Jake Browning, 125 yards through the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Chase Brown, 10 for 40 on the ground. He also added 3 catches for 31. So it's good to see him getting a little bit of that volume in the receiving game. But again, I think he had, 10 points in 4 PPR. So, you're not too happy with that. T. Higgins led the team in receiving, 3 for 32 on 6 targets. And Jamar Chase, 5 for 23 on 8 targets, which I mean, they just couldn't get to the ball. And I think a lot of that did come down to the penalties. But Mav, the Bengals here, I mean, you just really can't trust anyone whatsoever on this team. And I don't really think this will change moving forward. Are you a little bit more optimistic, or you're done with the Bengals for the year?
I mean, how can you trust them? I mean, Jamar Chase had that one big week in week 2, sort of half with Burrow, sort of half with Browning, I suppose. And then after that, it's been Pox, hasn't it? Really, really Pox. I mean, single digit fantasy points in those 2 weeks. And again, coming against 2 good defenses though in the Vikings and the Broncos is always going to be a bit more difficult. They got Detroit, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Jets, and the Bears in the next 5. So it does open up a little bit. But the Vikings and as I said, the Vikings and Broncos are looking like the two of the top 5 defenses in the competition at the moment. So I'd keep holding Jamar Chase at the moment. Personally, he's too good of a talent to get rid of him. And again, what are you going to get rid of him for? No one's going to pay big chunk of their team for him. So what's the point? You might as well hold the guy that you've got and run with him. Look, I think the Bengals can still salvage their season. Can they win the Super Bowl without Joe Burrow? Probably not. But can they make playoffs and maybe get a late push when Joe Burrow possibly comes back into the year? Sure. So if I'm them, I'm looking for a QB change or a QB to trade for in the next coming days and get him acclimatized to the play calling and the playbook over the next week or two, because you cannot keep persisting with Jake Browning under center the way he's been going at the moment. He's really struggling. I know penalties cost him today, but even that, when you've got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, I know you're dealing with a long field all the time, but you should at least get a couple of first downs here and there and keep the chains moving. They just couldn't do it. Obviously Chase Brown's really struggling too, 10 for 40. Not much really there. 4 yards per carry is okay, but let's be honest, game script wasn't there for him, and also workload wasn't really there for him. So if I'm the Bengals, I'm seriously looking for a change at QB. I'd be looking at. I mean, Jameis is pretty reckless. Don't get me wrong, but he can move the chain so easily. He might throw for 3 picks, but he might also throw for 400 yards. So he's going to cost you a measly 7th round pick, if that. I'd be looking at guys that are sort of veteran pieces at the back of the benches at the moment that aren't playing. Because they're not going to cost you much. I'm not saying go and trade high draft capital to get a good QB in, but just to get somebody in that can move the chains, because Jake Browning's not doing that.
Yeah, give the fans some hope. And I'm not too sure if it was you, Mav, or potentially Secko on a couple of weeks ago, but Andy Dalton was the name that that one of you threw out. He used to play for the Bengals back in the day.
Veteran piece, cost 7 round.
Yeah, cost you absolutely nothing, and he'd be able to support these gun weapons that they have there, at least, better than Jake Browning. And on the Broncos side of the ball here, big bounce back game for Bo Nix, 326 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But on the ground, he did have 7 yards and ran in a score as well on that one. Also on the ground, we did see a little bit more of a split in this one. RJ Harvey got more work in, but J.K. Dobbins, 16 for 101. So 6.3 a carry, very efficient there for J.K. Dobbins. He did add 1 catch just for a handful of yards. But RJ Harvey, 14 for 58, 4.1 a carry, and through the air, 4 for 40 and a score, which was, a massive game for RJ Harvey. With this, Matt, before we get to the receivers, can you see this split getting closer and closer between the two now? Like Sean Payton, he's had a taste of what Harvey can do. Again, grain of salt, because it's up against the Bengals defense, which is absolutely woeful. I'm pretty sure they were without first round pick and Shamar Stewart as well for this game, so even worse than normal. But yeah, are you still more so that Dobbins is the number 1 clear guy, or can you see that kind of shifting as the weeks come on?
I think Dobbins still is. I mean, game script wise today was pretty easy for him because they just had to keep running the ball, right? They could just get whatever they want on the ground. So game script was perfect for running backs. But J.K. Dobbins, man, he's been pretty much running the ball at 5 yards per carry every single game. Been really efficient with the ball in the hand. Been scoring most weeks. Didn't have a score today, but scores for the first 3 already. So RJ Harvey, I think, was a beneficiary of game scripts, despite a positive game, that's for sure. Probably his first really good positive game of the year. I know he had 70 yards in week 1, but that was also a big gain too. So, positive, but I think J.K. Dobbins is the guy. Sutton was pretty good, did what he needed to do, 5 for 81 and a touchdowns. That's just Sutton, I suppose. Cool, calm, collected, solid, consistent. You know what he's like. Marvin Mims was the guy that ate today. It's always a big. Well, we don't know who's the wide receiver 2 in this team. Is it Marvin Mims or is it Troy Franklin, or we know the number 1 is Sutton. That's clear cut and 100%. But who's the number 2? At any given week, it could change. So Marvin Mims was today and dominated. Looked really good. 6 catches for 69 yards. Very nice number. and then one rush for a touchdown. So good for him. And we'll go again and see who the Warriors 72 is next week.
Yeah, Marvin Mims, 69, nice. I think he just called the ball after that when he saw that. But yeah, Troy Franklin, 8 targets. Again, one to watch out. We will mention these guys with our waiver wire ads later on. But yeah, it might be a little too hard because, I mean, Marvin Mims, this is the first game that he's really done anything this year. And Troy Franklin is probably getting a bit more consistent work. But then again, who knows? Evan Engram got worked in a little bit with this one for the first time this year, 4 for 29 on 7 targets. We'll have to monitor to see if that progresses as we get further on. But that finishes up the Game 4 week recaps. Before we get into the waivers and the buys for Week 5, thanks heaps everyone for throwing in comments. We'll get to these towards the end of the show, so make sure you stick around for that one. But with that being said, and the Week 4 rewind finish, let's jump into the waiver wire. Brilliant. So before we dive into position by position, going through the top targets and the roster percentages out there on Sleeper, teams with buys for Week 5 coming up: Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, Atlanta Falcons, and also Pittsburgh Steelers. So definitely a lot of starters on these teams that will be on a lot of rosters. So hopefully a couple of these waiver wire targets we can slide in there to help get you through the week. And might I add, I wish that the Packers had a bye in Week 4, because then that means Josh Jacobs wouldn't have had 31 for you, Mav, in our matchup, and he definitely was the difference. But that's just my own selfishness coming through there. But starting off with the quarterback position, and we'll look at this more so in a superflex lens to begin with. Jackson Dart, 34%. Again, this number is definitely going to grow. He did come with his first start against the Chargers, pulled up a win. He looked pretty good. He definitely has more of a running style in this. He was looking to run more so than anything when his reads didn't go through. Threw a couple of nice passes, but of course, without Malik Neighbors for the rest of the year, he's going to have to spread the love around with the remaining of the New York Giants pass catchers. But Jackson Dart for you, Mav, is he? I know 34%. I know in a lot of leagues I've been checking, he's long gone. He was picked up last week, but if he's out there available, how much are you willing to spend on Jackson Dart if you are in a QB pinch?
Look, one QB leagues, I'd probably just let him go. I mean, with the loss of Neighbors is huge, right? If Neighbors was healthy, I'd say, yep, Dart's like go for him, have a crack, because run upside the running game's large, and then again you're going to get some upside through the air with Neighbors as a healthy target there for him. But without Neighbors, they're stuck with Slayton and Wandale Robinson again, right? We've seen this story before, pre-Malik Neighbors with other QBs, and it's pretty gross for the most part. So this is a rookie still learning his way in the league without his top target in Neighbors to play. So it's in Superflex leagues, again, he's probably not available. People would pick him up off the waiver wire if he wasn't picked up already in the waiver wire or stashed in someone's roster. But if he's on there in Superflex leagues, I've got some interest in him. I'd chuck a few, $5, $10, because QBs in Superflex leagues are very valuable. So that's something to look at. But outside of that, one QB leagues, I wouldn't really get in there.
Yeah, and also in Superflex, it's looking pretty grim this week. Like, we've got Carson Wentz, he's at 12%. It's looking like JJ will also miss Week 5, but the Vikings are taking on Cleveland at Cleveland. So, I mean, I think Carson Wentz, I think you try and even maybe, if you only have one quarterback or no quarterback, rather, you really need to fill that slot. But if you've got him there sitting in Superflex, I'd try and look towards a different position, just because I think Wentz and they're really going to struggle against the Cleveland Browns. And
what's funny about Wentz? What happens if he comes out and dominates against the Browns? Like, the Browns defense is actually okay, right? It's okay. It's actually probably a bit more than okay. It's solid, right? So let's say he comes out and throws for 260, 270, couple of touchdowns and upside on the ground, right? he has some value still in the league, I reckon, because McCarthy showed nothing. Now, do I believe that McCarthy's the future? Probably. Do I think he might get inserted back into the lineup when he's healthy? Probably. But Carson Wentz right now, he's had 2 games at the moment where he's showed that he's capable with solid offense, good offensive line. You know, he's done everything that he could possibly do. So just keep rolling with a hot hand. I probably would.
Yeah, I think it might be hard for the Vikings because I mean, like, if they weren't so committed to JJ, they would have, I think, maybe tried to keep Sam Darnold. I know the cost was probably a little bit too out of there, but I mean, it just seemed like they had so much faith in JJ, and only really giving him three starts or 2 starts rather to start off the year. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but I mean, Wentz, get him to the Bengals. Maybe they might do better with
No, they
Wentz under
wouldn't do that.
center. Yeah. Again, it might be tough. I'm probably more so leaning on JJ McCarthy still being the guy once he comes back, but he could still miss another couple of weeks.
Yeah, easily. And then if that's the case, then yeah, sure. I mean, look, I wouldn't be pouring in a lot of fab for Wentz or any sort of what do you call it, waiver priority or anything like that. I'd be just hoping he slips and you can just pick him up for free off the waiver wire once waiver's complete. Because yeah, he still has some value, man. He really does. But outside of that, Matt Stafford was another one that I've got here as well. He's an option. He's got a really good connection with Puka Nacua, hasn't he? He's making him the genuine wide receiver 1 of the league at the moment, and not looking back at all. But Matt Stafford in 1 QB leagues. Who they got this week?
They've got the 49ers. They start off the week on Thursday Night Football, and 49ers, they couldn't really stop too much last week against the Jags. And yeah, you're right. Like, Stafford looks so good, and Puka, yeah, it's just no question. If drafts were to happen today, he'd be the 101 overall, ahead of Jamar Chase, of course, with that Burrow injury. So yeah, you probably can't get him in Superflex, but yeah, definitely in 1 quarterback leagues, he's a good option out there. And the last guy that we really have here, Mav, or I'll just throw this up at you. If Lamar Jackson does miss, is it worth picking up Cooper Rush at all in Superflex? Like, are you taking him over Carson Wentz against Cleveland, or would you rather Wentz in that scenario?
Great question. I would probably prefer Wentz, which is crazy to say that I prefer Wentz over anything in 2025. I can see you there in the chat there, Cheese. I'm one of those guys as well, my friend. So that makes 2 of us. I would prefer Wentz. The offense is better. Well, through the air it is anyway. When you got Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hockenson, more weapons there to use through the air. So definitely Wentz over Cooper Rush. Definitely.
Yeah, I think I'm the same too. It just seems like, I think probably with Derrick Henry there, I think they might try and get him, just try and really funnel the offense through them, while Lamar Jackson, if he does miss time. Moving on to running backs, and the guy that's probably going to be the number 1 waiver target for everybody in every league. Running back position, we know how scarce it can get with the injuries that have come through, but Woody Marks went absolutely ballistic in week 4 for the Texans, had more touches than Nick Chubb there, and I believe he had 2 scores. I'll pull up his line here real quick. So he had 17 carries for 69 yards, another nice one. 1 touchdown there through the ground, and then through the air, 4 for 50. And he also had a score, and he looks really good. I mean, he definitely looks more explosive than Nick Chubb. 37% rostered out there as well, so that number is going to absolutely shoot up by this time tomorrow once waivers go through. But Woody Marks, Mav, first of all, is he your number 1 target overall this week? And if you are struggling at running back, or even if you aren't, how much fab are you willing to unload on a guy like Woody Marks?
Definitely my top addition, if he's available, would be Woody Marks. Depends how much morning wood you've got. You might decide you might want to put a bit more fab onto him. But yeah, it's I guess it's one of those things where we had a report the other day. It might have been this morning or yesterday. I can't remember the exact timeline of it, but Joe Mixon still has no update at all, and they don't know if or when he's actually going to return this year. So when they're saying that, it sounds like it could be season when there's no timetable at all. So Nick Chubb has been pretty average for the most part. He's looking like he's pretty cooked. You know, most weeks been running at 3.5 yards a carry. So, you know, that's okay. But, you know, Woody Marks is probably the future of this franchise. And giving him a bit more explosion, a bit more, I suppose, field stretching ability through the air, what Nick Chubb can't do. I mean, Woody Marks is only a small little guy, 5'10", 208 pounds. But he can go, can't he? Once he gets that ball, he's out. He's turning the corner. He's good. So definitely would be a top priority ad, because the ability for him to be a starter in the future could be there. And again, he's only a rookie, right? So there's some true upside that if he does get a starting gig at any point, that he might just get it and possibly could be flex worthy of play at any point if you need him there.
And the best thing
how
I
much
think,
tab would I put in there?
yeah,
It depends how RB needy you sort of are. But 15%, 20%, I'd be willing to do. RBs are hard to get, so you can almost if you're more RB needy than normally would be, you could always sort of chuck in a bit more. But yeah, RBs just don't grow on trees. So if you need to go hard on an RB, Woody Marks would be not a bad option.
yeah, I think if I only had one starting running back, I think I'd probably 50 to 60% on Woody Marks. I think I'd be comfortable with. But yeah, if you're in that position, yeah, you might be struggling for sure. But I guess the one thing that we really need to make note of with Woody Marks, his snap percentage has increased each week in, week out, and also his opportunities as well. And he's definitely that pass catching option in the backfield. Nick Chubb, that was never really his thing, even when he was in his prime. So yeah, we love to see that. And with how bad their O-line is, just makes for some nice checkdowns for Woody Marks when CJ Stroud is getting pressured on. But moving on from here, Mav, another guy that had a massive week and really due to an injury that was ahead of him. But Kenneth Gainwell, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's at 43% rostered at the moment. He is on bye this week, so he's not going to help you this week. But I guess with this, again, we don't really know the extent of the Jaylen Warren injury. Was it just this week that he's going to miss? And, he will have this bye to also get healthy. But 19 for 99 and 2 touchdowns on the ground and 6 for 35 through the air. So, he looks pretty similar to Jaylen Warren with his skill set and what he can do. Are you buying into this with Warren, projected to come back probably in week 6 after the bye? Or are you just you more so leaning into Warren as we get into more games of the NFL?
I feel gross unloading into a guy who's got a bye this week. It truly does feel gross, especially that the unknown of week 6 of Jaylen Warren is in question. He was a real surprise cut, inactive, I suppose, should I say, for the Steelers, because all reports were he's going to play, and then last minute, bang, half an hour before the kickoff, he was out, and that was like everyone's like, whoops. He was good to go, but they probably thought that international game, let's hold him back. We're going to buy next week, and he should be good for week 6. So there's been no other reports coming through that Kenny Gainwell's going to be getting a start in week 6. So I wouldn't be touching him, to be honest with you. Look, maybe a couple of dollars if need be, like nothing ridiculous, because the opportunity just isn't there for him unless injury. But it goes to show that what's his name? Caleb Johnson's really in the weeds.
Oh yeah,
isn't he? Really in the weeds. He's in the naughty books. They've already talked a bit of crap about him, even in live press conferences, and they're not happy with Caleb Johnson and how he's progressing. So Kenny Gainwell, we know now he could be a top handcuff in the competition. If he gets a start, he's startable in fantasy football, because bang, he had a monster game, didn't he? Saw plenty of carries, saw plenty of yardage, saw a couple of TDs on top of that, bit of passing down work as well. So yeah, if Jaylen Warren misses any more time in the future, Kenny Gainwell has to be rostered.
Yeah, it could be a good spot if you are the Jaylen Warren manager and you do have the luxury of a spare bench space. Could be a very nice and free square to pick up, because you're right, nice handcuff when Warren was out, and he can produce. Another guy we have here, Kendre Miller, 7% rostered, running back for the New Orleans Saints. another one. His snap percentage has slowly started to increase as the weeks have progressed. I mean, last year was just he was in Dennis Allen's doghouse, the old head coach there, and he's been battling with injuries as well in his first couple of years in the league. But 11 for 65 on the ground and also ran in a score, 5.91 a carry. Is Kendre Miller an option for you, Mav? He does have a bye in week 11, so you don't have to worry about that for a long time. But yeah, Kendre Miller for the New Orleans Saints.
The Saints are 0-4, aren't they? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
You know what's going to be interesting to watch? Look, I'm not interested in Kendre Miller this week in waiver wire, to be honest with you. I wouldn't chuck anything on him. Would I be putting him in a watch list? Absolutely. I've got a feeling that Kamara might get traded in the next sort of whenever the deadline is. I think it's week 10 or something, or maybe even week 9.
Yeah, 4th of November. So yeah, probably week 8, week 9, that area.
So, I mean, yeah, I seriously, like, they can't hold Kamara for this long. He's old now. He's like 30 years old, 29, 30, something around there. 0-4, probably not making the playoffs, not really doing anything. It's going to be a long rebuild. So if I'm them, I'm moving on Kamara. And I'm putting in Kendre Miller to start off because, again, he's fine. He's not a bad starter. I wouldn't pick him up this week in fantasy football, though, but he's definitely one to watch for the, not distant future, really. I mean, a couple of weeks he could be roster worthy, but at the moment, I wouldn't do it. But snap percentage is increasing, so that could be another reason to, if you're in deeper leagues, sure, and he's available, maybe, he could, maybe it's a stash option for that time, maybe it could come around. But if you're not in, or if you're in shallow leagues, then there's no point really grabbing him.
And quickly, Matt, we've got a last couple names here. Definitely some deeper stashes and well available in leagues. Brashard Smith, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, he's at 6%. And also Isaiah Davis, he's at 1% for the New York Jets, and that's purely based on that Braylon Allen injury and if he does miss multiple weeks. But Brashard Smith, Isaiah Davis, any of these guys worth picking up in your eyes for week 5?
I don't think Isaiah Davis is going to see. Well, I'd be crying if he did. To be honest with you, but it'd be criminal if he gave Isaiah Davis plenty of work over Pacheco, over Brees Hall. Sorry, but Brashard Smith is one to look at. Again, 4 carries for 9 yards wasn't fantastic on the ground, but none of the running backs at the Chiefs have really been producing, have they? I could actually see Kamara getting traded to the Chiefs. To be honest, I could see that happening, because Kareem Hunt hasn't really been too impressive. Pacheco hasn't been that impressive, and then you got Brashard Smith, the rookie 6th or 7th round pick. He was, I think, he's 7th round pick actually. Who's looked good in little spurts, but again, I don't think he can carry the whole workload. So, look, again, one to watch with Brashard Smith. If anything happens to Pacheco or Kareem Hunt, then yeah, sure, he gets an uptick in work, but I don't think he's rosterable at this point.
Yeah, maybe in PPR leagues, perhaps like as a late stash, because he gets work in that area of the field. But yeah, they definitely could be a nice trade spot for a running back. And yeah, I was actually thinking, Kamara, when you were talking through it, that would be definitely a Chiefs thing to do. I think bringing in someone like that. Moving on to the wide receivers, we do have a couple of names here, and we'll run through these. The top guy, 44% owned, Romeo Doubs, coming off his 3 touchdown performance. Again, he is on a week 5 bye. From you, Mav, is he worth a stash perhaps for when he gets back in week 6, or is it just too much of a carousel there in Green Bay?
They play the Cowboys, man. The Cowboys leak points left, right, and center. So I don't really take that too seriously when I see, a play go off against the Cowboys that's not really too fantasy common or fantasy known as such. But Romeo Doubs throughout his career, he has had a couple of good games here and there, and then nothing after that. So again, he's got a really nice schedule coming up though. Romeo Doubs, he's got a week 5 bye, but he's got the Bengals after that, so that should be a good matchup there for him. And he's got the Cardinals, and he's got the Pittsburgh Steelers after that, into Carolina, which isn't too bad either. So 4 decent matchups there in a row after his bye. So if you worry 780, yeah, he's going to cost you a week. He's going to sit there and do nothing for you. But he could be the best available option on your waiver wire. And so if you're Warrior 780, then you might need to go grab him.
And we've got a couple of.
What I spend probably 5%, 6%, 7%, which could be $6-7 really. So not much.
Yeah, and you might not need to spend too much too, especially when he's on bye. So yeah, could be a nice little sneaky ad for week 6. And I've got 4 guys here, Matt, that I'll throw at you, and all of these they are possible options, all because of the injuries that are ahead of them in their wide receiving room. Darius Slayton for the New York Giants with the Malik injury. Malik Washington here in Miami for the Tyreek injury. Luke McCaffrey, he's at 3% for the Terry McLaurin, and also Isaiah Bond for the Cleveland Browns with Cedric Tillman's here. So out of these 4, is there anyone here that you're really looking to pick up? I mean, it looks like Malik and Tyreek, their injuries are definitely, Malik's definitely full of year, and Tyreek, it is trending towards that direction. Is that probably where you'd start off, or do you're keen on the other 2 names?
Definitely Slayton would probably have the standalone value due to Malik's obviously injury. So someone's going to have to come in and play the snaps, and someone's going to have to, play the same role or similar role. Wandale Robinson, if he's available on your waiver wires, I doubt he is, but he'd be probably the top option through the air. And then Darius Slayton would be the second best after that, I reckon. Is Slayton rosterable? Probably. Again, if he's your last option on your roster, that's fine. You're hoping that he might pop off, or you're hoping that he might take a step forward in his career or have connection with Jackson Dart, new opportunity there. I think there's a word where you can go grab him for cheap and hold him, but outside of that, not really much interest, and shouldn't cost you a lot to get him. And then I don't reckon any of those guys that you mentioned, McCaffrey, Bond, Malik Washington actually might have some sort of value. He's looked really good actually when he's had opportunity. So Malik Washington actually might be not a bad pickup for cheap. If Jalen Waddle's not him, then they need someone else throughout the air. So again, if you can get Malik for cheap, I'm in on Malik Washington for a few dollars here or there.
Yeah, and I'm with you on Darius Slayton. I was just having a look here as you were going through. Malik Neighbours missed 2 games last year, week 5 and week 6. Darius Slayton in week 5 and 6 last year, he saw 11 targets in each game. So yeah, he does both. Different QB, of course, and he does operate best probably more intermediate or deeper down towards the field. So he could be the beneficiary of when Dart likes to go for it there. So yeah, I mean 11 targets in both games. Yeah, that could slot straight in there. Moving on to tight ends here, Mav. Yeah, we've really covered wide receiver Darius Slayton, Malik Washington. They're probably the top 2, and Romeo Dobbs has a nice little stash for week 6. But tight end, Darren Waller. Again, we did mention he's looking like the touchdown threat there in Miami. He's at 10% rostered. We expect that to change. I might even just loop these guys in, Mav, and we can go through there. Brenton Strange, tight end for the Jags. He's at 33% still. Theo Johnson, he's at 5%. He could also be an option for the New York Giants. He looked pretty good on the limited touches that he saw from Dart. Tommy Tremble, tight end for the Carolina Panthers. He's at 0% rostered. And JT Sanders, the tight end before him, he's currently week to week with an injury that he's battling as well. And also Mason Taylor, our guy that we mentioned from today's games, he's at 11% after seeing 5 for 65 this week. So out of those handful of names there, Mav, is there one that sticks out like a clear guy that you're looking to target and will probably have a solid role moving forward? And then, yeah, probably another option as well that you'd be willing to spend some fab on.
I mean, Darren Waller is probably the one that has the immediate fancy value in tight ends if you needed. Like you're having guys. Well, Waller would have probably outscored Njoku, I reckon, in 1 week than he has his whole year. Same with Ingram too. He might have outscored Ingram in 1 game throughout his whole season. Waller definitely, I think, has value and should be rostered. And I think that it won't cost you too much. Tight ends, you don't pay big coin for tight ends off the waiver wire. I think it's silly. So unless you're tight end needy, maybe, but it should only cost you $5, $6, $7 max, I reckon, and that should get it done. He's keep in mind he's old as, but at least he has some sort of value in the red zone, I reckon, in this offense. And Brenton Strange, surprisingly, he's actually been okay. He's only a young tight end, he's 24 years old, second round pick he was in 2023, I believe. So highly touted, but now starting to get a bit more opportunity. 7 targets in back-to-back weeks then, week 3, week 4. And caught the ball 6 times. So, in tight end premium leagues, I think he's rosterable. In, I suppose, in not tight end premium leagues, borderline. He's the tight end 15 on the year. So, with possible upside being there, because I don't think Travis Hunter is really making a big impact on the offensive end, and neither is Brian Thomas either. So, Brenton Strange is, I think, to a degree. So I think he should be rostered. Won't cost you a lot. A few dollars should get him. $3, $4, $5 should get him. And again, not worth chucking on the house or anything like that on him, but definitely rosterable.
And on Brenton Strange, surprisingly, I was looking at the Jags stats. He's the leader in receiving yards and also in receptions for that team. So that's amongst BTJ, like you mentioned, Travis Hunter. That's really the only other guys of note. So Brenton Strange, leading receiver for the Jags. That is mind-boggling at this point of the year. And Mason Taylor, he's also going to be a good target as well if he is out there. Like we did speak on, the Jets offense is very consolidated. There'll probably be some weeks where Fields rushes a lot more than what he passes. But in those negative game scripts where they do need to pass the ball, Mason Taylor's definitely going to get some work in that role. And we know the tight end landscape can be absolutely balls throughout the NFL year. And you need to look for some nice streaming options when you can. That's really all of our waiver wire targets here for week 5. We'll go into some possible drop candidates as well. If you've got these guys in your team and you're questioning whether to keep holding or to let loose. So Mav, I'll just run through these names, just a yes or no, and then we'll get onto our streaming options here. So David Njoku, tight end for the Browns.
Borderline, very borderline.
Because he could get traded. That's where I'm kind of thinking like he could get traded with that deadline coming around, and then Hannon will perform, and then Njoku, depending on that spot. I'm kind of myself, it's tough. I'm probably hanging out if I've got a spare spot, but I mean, if you need to bring someone in with these buys, it's probably time to cut Njoku. Bill Krosky-Merritt, running back for the Commanders.
Hold.
Cedric Tillman with a hamstring injury.
We need more news, but probably drop if he misses extended time. If he misses more than 2 weeks, I think he's drop worthy. I don't think he'd ever start worthy, to be fair. So, probably a drop candidate if he 2 or more, he's out. Yep.
And the quarterback for the Browns, probably more so in Superflex if you are struggling in this position. But Joe Flacco, is he his drop? And would you just take any of the other options like Carson Wentz, Cooper Rush ahead of him in the start?
Probably.
Yeah,
scary, but probably. Probably would.
I think he's had 1 point in each of the last 2 games for fantasy. So if you started him, that's just 4.6 week 3, 3.2 in week 4. So I mean that's just what an absolute bomb.
What about Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, he's injured, isn't he? Did he play?
They reckon he's fine.
They reckon he's fine.
Got a bye this week, but they reckon he's okay.
Oh man, no, I think Kyle Pitts is the second receiving option there behind Drake London. Oh no, third probably, but it's Drake London, Bijan, and Kyle Pitts in that receiving room. I mean, Bijan he's doing so much work on both sides, on the ground and through the air. So I probably would be dropping Darnell Mooney. I think you on that side as well, Mav.
Trey Tucker.
Yeah. If you spent fab on Trey Tucker last week, hopefully that's a lesson learned. Just in, not trying not to get lost in the sauce with these big scores, because it's just not consistent. Like that's Trey Tucker's biggest game by an absolute landslide in his career. I'll throw one at you, Mav. Tyquan Thornton. I believe he's had touchdowns in 3 straight weeks for the Chiefs. Worthy's first game back in Rashee Rice. Yeah, I think he's back in week 7. So
I would.
Yep, he's gone as well.
Ramondre.
The Patriots, I don't know. McDaniel's there, the OC, and even Vrabel. It's surprising that he's still getting a lot of the work compared to Henderson. I think you probably still need to hold Ramondre for now, but once you see that split move more towards Henderson, I think he's definitely going to be a drop because I just can't see him getting much more if he has a couple more fumbles. Which side are you sitting on?
One more, and we'll move on. This is the biggest one, I reckon, and probably the one that needs a lot of consideration. But Keon Coleman.
Nah, I'm holding Keon. I'm holding. It's definitely very game script for the Buffalo Bills. Like if they've got a matchup where both sides are going to be scoring, but against a couple of cakewalks that they've had the past couple of weeks, they just don't need him, and they might need him against the Patriots this week. Drake May can move the ball, but yeah, I'm holding Keon Coleman.
11 targets in week 1, 3 in week 2, 4 in week 3, 4 in week 4.
Yeah,
the targets aren't there, man.
They're not, but it's just the game script, and once those games, they like looking at Buffalo's schedule moving forward. I mean, they've got the Pats, the Falcons, Panthers. Yeah, he probably won't get much work, but the Chiefs could see him getting some more work, and then Dolphins, Bucks probably another spot. Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't start him, but I think in some matchups, probably be a nice little stream. Especially if you are underdogs in your matchup for that week. But yeah, you can't start him each week. It's tough. It's very tough. But guys, if anybody else has some drop candidates that you've got questioning on your rosters, make sure to chuck them in the comments or on any of our social media posts, and we'll be able to get to those for you as well. But streaming options, we'll go through these quickly. I've got a few here, Mav, and then I can touch on to see if you've got any others that you want to add in. 4-1 quarterback leagues for quarterbacks, Matt Stafford versus the 49ers off the top. He's under 50% roster owned in all leagues out there, and against 49ers, I think he can throw for a whole heap. Tight end, Darren Waller versus the Panthers. The Panthers have been pretty woeful against tight ends this year, and without Tyreek, you could see another touchdown moving into week 5. And for defenses, I've got the Lions taking on the Bengals because the Bengals just looked absolutely horrid, or they have for the last few weeks here. But any streaming options that you'd like to add in for quarterback, tight end, or defense for week 5, Mav?
Haven't really studied the week 5 matchups, so it's hard to say. Streaming options wise, let me just have a quick squeeze and I'll tell you. I don't mind. Oh, okay. All right, here we go. Here's one for you. Ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. Do you think Cam Ward has any sort of streaming ability against the Cardinals this week?
No, I think they're toast. And with his comments in the press conference about like how he's saying the team's arse and stuff, I think he would be getting absolutely ripped. And his O-line might let him take a couple of hits. Yep.
A guy who's actually been pretty good this year, for a streaming option anyway. Spencer Rattler against the Giants. He's been good, Spencer Rattler. He's been pretty good.
Yeah, it depends what you mean by good. But yeah, I mean against the Giants, it could be a close game. The Giants without Malik, they might have trouble. So yeah, I think I'd probably start Spencer Rattler, probably ahead of everyone that we had here, and Carson Wentz. So I think I'd probably start the rattlesnake over him in that one. It's gross, but yeah, it's very gross. It's very gross there. But yeah, a couple of streaming options. Hopefully you're not caught in that predicament and you've got better options out there. But if you are, definitely try and target the nice matchups for week 5. With that will conclude the show. We'll quickly jump into some questions and comments that we've had hanging around here. Thanks heaps, guys, for hanging out if you were here. And we'll jump into some question time.
It's question time. Let's answer your questions for the week ahead.
Belter. So starting from the top, IJ, any news on Lamar injury and how long he will miss? Believe we did cover this. It's still TBD as of yet. We will hopefully get some news over the next couple of days. Bobby Vito, thanks for throwing this one in. Is Terry McLaurin droppable? No, we did cover this as well. He hold him on your bench. He'll come good. It just might take a couple of weeks here. Oyson, McHugh, 3-1 and down Neighbours. Any realistic wide receiver trade targets? So looking at this, you definitely won't be able to get anything for Neighbours because he's done for the year. But I mean, maybe cheap wide receiver.
AJ Brown cheap.
Yeah, but you can't. You definitely can't move Neighbours for AJ Brown, Mav. Like,
Oh God, no. You have to move. You'd have to make a move at some point. So look, I'd be looking to go AJ Brown. He's had one good week out of 4 so far, so the owner might be a little bit sort of down on him and a bit frustrated. So worth a conversation there. Even ask the question about Jamar Chase if you think that if there's any sort of concern there, and see if you can move a piece that's not going to be too substantial, I suppose, for maybe a risk. But ask them about those 2 pieces. I think that's probably where I'd start first, and then work your way down. And guys who haven't been performing that you think might be or is undervalued.
Yeah, and I think like with 3-1, I'm trying to think of like just some real cheap guys. Mike Evans, he'll probably be back in a few weeks' time. You could probably get him for dirt cheap, and if you're 3-1, even if you drop the next couple of weeks, he could be a nice cheap one in there. Even Jacoby Myers off a bit of a down game. He's been seeing a whole heap of targets and that clear option behind Brock Bowers, or even, he's had more targets than Brock Bowers. Could be some cheap ones there. And man, punter. Gee, this is a bit of a beast here. 12-team league with Horse, Wiz, and Damo. Dak Prescott. Dallas. You've got Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving, Garrett Wilson, Pickens, and you've got Bowers, Waddle, Bates, kicker, defense. Your bench, CJ Stroud, Zach Charbonnet, Stephon Diggs, Douglas, Ned Douglas. Is that Demario Douglas for the Pats? Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, Justice Hill, Tyler Algier, Michael Wilson, and then McPherson and the KC defense fellas. Who should I try and trade for? So probably looking at starters here, Mav. Is there any guy here that you're looking to trade out on the high? I mean, George Pickens, and also there was another comment here. I'll loop this one here. Cameron Dobie throw in thoughts on picking up Pickens this week. So with that, Pickens, he looked great with the start. I mean, Mav, I'm sure you would have watched this one being a Cowboys fan. I think he had 2 touchdowns, looked like a clear guy there. But CeeDee Lamb's probably back in a couple of weeks here. Would he be one target that you'd be looking to sell high and cash in before CD comes back? Or is there any others there that stick out that you'd be looking to trade away?
I mean, punter seems pretty good. So, on paper, that's pretty solid. So I don't mind that team at all. Lots of ability. So you can probably just hold at the moment, depending on what your record is, obviously. If you're scoring pretty high, not winning games, and keep holding. But if you're scoring low compared to your other league mates and you're losing, then maybe look to make a change. But, I don't mind Pickens, man. I think he's been pretty good. I think he's got a stable role in the offense, even without CeeDee Lamb or without CeeDee Lamb. I think he's fine. Obviously, more targets without him is obviously a positive, but I think he's fine. Supercoach show, we'll cover that tomorrow night with Pickens. So I think that was more of a Supercoach question there from our other man there, but we'll look at that tomorrow night. So tune in tomorrow night for what we think about George Pickens and Supercoach.
Love it. Yeah, potentially just to give you punter maybe a trade for target. Guys off the top of our head, Breece Hall, if you want to add an extra depth piece there. You've got Bucky Irving and Bijan, of course, but Breece Hall, if you can get him on the cheap, we expect him to have a big week against the Cowboys. And 4 wide receivers, I mean, you're looking pretty solid across the board. So, I mean, Maz probably said it both. You don't really need to make any trades as of yet. Dak Prescott, you might be able to look to upgrade after his big week. Maybe you could go for someone that had a little bit of a down week in those top tier quarterbacks. But I mean, everybody's pretty. Yeah, your team's pretty solid there, mate. Well done. You should be happy with that. IJ, can we see McCaffrey continuing his good early season form, which contributes his Supercoach output? So I'm going to say that's Christian McCaffrey. As long as he's healthy, he's been getting so much work at the 49ers. I mean, he's on pace to have the most carries ever for a player in a season if that continues. But I mean, while he's there and while the offense is missing Kittle, Ayuk, and also Jennings and Pierce all dealing with injuries. I mean, even with those guys, McCaffrey's just going to get a lot of work, and he'll probably see more touchdowns when they can move the ball. So yeah, definitely, while he's healthy, for sure. McCaffrey's going to be an absolute smash here. I'll throw this one to you, Mav, from IJ. This is Supercoach as well. Jackson, so Lamar Jackson to Mahomes. So Mahomes, looking at it, just checking when his bye is. I'll quickly pull this up. I know Lamar, his bye is week 7. We're covering this on our last night's show, but Patty Mahomes, his bye is week 10. So you've got a couple extra weeks there. And yeah, just confirming Lamar, his bye is week 7. So depending on his injury, they well and truly probably could hold him out until that point. But let's say Lamar is ruled out for the next couple of weeks. Mav, are you looking to move Lamar for Mahomes?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. He definitely would be in consideration, Mahomes, to come in if that's the case. If you are a Lamar owner, but again, let's just hold the phone a little bit and let's just wait till we get more information before we decide what we do. Let's not panic. It's not the end of the world just yet. But again, if you want to make a deal and save some money along the way, then trade May at 21 mil with a low break even would be another good one too. So he continues to show that he's a really solid player, and he's only trending up. So you might not lose. You might gain some money on the way when you do that trade. So, but yeah, just please hold for the moment just to see what the official diagnosis is from the boys, and go from there.
Yeah, and tomorrow night we've got our trade show as well, so we'll hopefully have some more information on that injury, and then we can go through a heap of targets as well that we've got on that. And IJ, follow-up thoughts on Pickens. Was this week an outlier, probably in terms of his ceiling, without CD there, and also the game script was just perfect. They needed to chase down points. It was high scoring, and Pickens was the clear number one option there. So probably an outlier for his overall ceiling, but he's going to be pretty solid even when CD comes back, like Mav was mentioning. This one was from Cheese when we were covering through Carson Wentz. Yeah, and Mav was on board with this. Can't believe I'm saying this, but Wentz actually won me a league matchup this week in 2025. He had,
me too.
I think he had 350 yards or something like that this week. Yeah, 23 fantasy points, 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So, for sure, if you're caught in a pinch, yeah, Carson Wentz definitely saved the day for you there. The Smitty waiver wide receivers, we did cover that a little bit earlier on, so hopefully you listened or you were tuning in at that point. Darius Slayton, Malik Washington, they're probably the top 2, and Romeo Dobbs as a nice stash for week 6 as he is in week 5 bye. Travis Kelce, a drop candidate in traditional fantasy. What do you think, Mav? I know in Supercoach he's definitely a trade out, but traditional fantasy with Worthy, getting back in there and Rashee Rice a couple of weeks away. What are you doing with Kelce?
In traditional fantasy, no, I don't think so. I think he's a hold. Again, he's a bit old, so give him a bit of slack. But he still has a connection with Mahomes. So at any point he could pop off. But in Supercoach, probably. But again, there's not really a lot of good tight end options out there anyway. So Tucker Kraft's on bye this week. He's a top 5 option at the moment, and then you got Tyler Warren, who's on everyone's bench. Brock Bowers hasn't been too great, obviously, with his injury that he's holding at the moment and playing through. So there's no real smash trade candidate to go to really. So I would hold. I would hold at every facet of fantasy football with Kelce at the moment.
And the next comment here from Menachem Schmerk. Thanks for throwing this one in. And this is a good point where we went through our running back waivers. But how much fab on Woody Marks? My running back is Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt and Stevenson with Jalen Warren out. So yeah, definitely running back's a very sore spot. I think Mav, we were mentioning 50, 60%. Probably, are you looking to spend more if this is the situation that you're dealing with?
Again, depends how RB needy you are. There's no point wasting it. There's no point sitting there going, I'm just going to waste it because he's just because I can. Unless you truly believe that he's going to be the RB1 for the Texans for week 5, week 6, the remainder of the year. Again, it's hard to say, but it'd probably be a committee for the whole year. But yeah, if you're RB needy, sure, launch in. But if you're not, then play the safe game and hope that people don't go higher.
Yeah, love it.
And
Yeah.
in your case, in this guy's case, maybe he has to go a bit harder. Maybe he has to go about 40%, because Bell and Stevenson, realistically, as your RB2 is not a safe option, is it?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I think this one here from Not That Homie is in a very similar predicament, or if this is the same person here, yeah, 50-60% if you're dealing with that running back room currently. Yeah, and hope for the best. Hopefully, Woody Marks is that number one guy moving forward and for the remainder of the season. From Jesse G here, would use trade Javonte Williams or Travis Etienne for Drake London? My other running backs are Gibbs, Amarion, Lost Neighbors, and Mike Evans. Other wide receivers are Pickens and Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, if you can somehow pull off Javonte Williams for Drake London, absolutely. If you can get Etienne done for Drake London, I personally would, especially after losing Neighbors there. I think Etienne, I mean, yeah, of course, he's looked great the handful of weeks, but Tootin, the longer the season progresses, he could start to get better in this one. How are you feeling about this comment here, Mav?
Gotta be very careful how you trade Eddie. And I'm an owner in a few leagues. I've got Eddie on my bench. Well, probably should be a starter, to be fair, because he's been balling, hasn't he? Gonna be very careful on what we actually do with Eddie, because it looks like he could be a top 12 running back this year. So if he and Jesse's obviously a guy who's got Eddie on his bench with RBs of Gibson and Marion, you'd imagine that he's going to be sitting on the bench. Yeah, be very cautious in how you actually move Eddie in on. If you can do a 2-for-1 for Eddie and another piece for Justin Jefferson, I'd probably do that. Look a bit higher, try and get a bit better. Because yeah, I mean Eddie at the moment would be in a lot of starting lineups at the moment. He would be, especially with the lack of RBs realistically in the league. So yeah, be very cautious in how you trade Eddie in. I'm in the same boat. You have to, and probably Javonte, to be fair too. Javonte has to be cautious with how you use him. I expect that boat to sort of sink a little bit over the next 5-6 weeks, and that'll thin out a little bit. But Eddie looks like he's been a safe option before for us. So yeah, just be very careful in how you trade Eddie on. Make sure it's the right offer.
Of course. Yeah, you always gotta be careful and make sure that you're not selling too low. Comment here from Itays. Do you think Purdy and Metcalf for Josh Allen would work when they have Neighbors out, Lamb on IR, and Jamar Chase suffering with a bad QB? I mean, if this team has somehow walked out of the draft with Neighbors, Lamb, and Jamar Chase, I'd love to get into that league. That would just be get us in there. But Mav, I don't think this would probably be enough. I mean, of course, like it's the right idea, giving a quarterback and also a wide receiving piece there in Metcalf for Josh Allen. It's the right idea, but I'm not too sure if this would be enough, even with those injuries to the wide receiver. Definitely worth a crack, though. But yeah, you could. That's definitely the type of idea that you want to be doing, targeting those guys with injuries and hopefully, giving a 2-for-1 and getting one of their studs. Gabe Forbes thrown in here. What about the injury bug at Meadowlands? And Meadowlands and Dak always getting injured about this time this year. What do you make of that one, Mav?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Hang on, mate. He means MetLife.
Oh, MetLife. Oh, okay, yeah. Because they've got turf, artificial turf, don't they? Oh, yeah. Clay Malik Neighbors. Yeah. No, of course. Yeah, why are they doing turf? Are they thinking it's too hard to maintain grass, even though like everybody prefers it, and some people just refuse to play on turf? I think that's a big letdown from the NFL, and they're greedy. Yeah, way too many injuries.
Dak is playing on MetLife this week.
Yeah, that's tough. Hopefully, Dak can stay upright in that one here. IJ also has Josh Allen. When's Allen's bye? So his bye is week 7, the same as Lamar. So Allen and Mahomes will be fine. That's no dramas if you're moving off Lamar there. Punter, my super coach quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Plan has always been to trade Hurts round 9 bye for Lamar in round 8, round 9. And that, I'm pretty sure you said this, Mav. This was your end game. And also when you said that, I said, yeah, no, that makes most sense. They're the two top quarterbacks that you want at the end of the season. So yeah, if you can try and plan for that,
Perfect
yeah,
punter.
that's perfect.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. You must be listening to the show, mate. Love to hear it. Gabe Forbes, would you trade Bowers? Still relatively high value if you have Warren and Taysom Hill on IR. If you can get good price, but I definitely wouldn't be trying to sell him for low. I think Bowers will bounce back. I know he's been dealing with that knee injury. You know, I think he will come good, and it is a new offense, so that the more time those guys have to kind of get that worked out with Chip Kelly and also Geno Smith, you know, new quarterback for the team, definitely wouldn't be looking to sell him cheap. Definitely don't take below market value for Brock Bowers, but I mean, potentially, yeah, he could be a good trade away if you do have Tyler Warren sitting there as well, because he definitely can start and he's been producing better than Brock Bowers. Devin Gray, should I trade Rome Odunze and Jalen Waddle for Jamar Chase? I just lost neighbours. What are you doing here, Mav? I think personally for me, I'm holding on to Rome Odunze and with Jalen Waddle as well, and the Tyreek Hill injury, I think they'll probably both outperform Jamar Chase until the Bengals offense kind of gets back on track. And even if it does, big question here. Are you the same boat? You're looking to hold on to these two guys?
Yeah. Yep. When in Rome, huh? Yeah, not a chance I'm letting him go at this point. He's got to buy this week, so fair enough. But Waddle, we expect Green Arrows trending upwards, should be a bit more positive for him for the future, for the near future anyway. And then Jamar Chase, I guess it is buying low when you look at it back in week one, but is it buying high now, or is it buying? Yeah, who would know? I mean, Adunze's been a beast, hasn't he? He looks like he could be a top 15 wide receiver, like solid numbers. So I don't think so. I don't think I would. But hey, Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. I think he'll work it out sooner or later.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely a hold for now. And if you did lose neighbours, you're probably in a pinch for wide receiver depth with that one. The Smitty, who would you stash in 2-quarterback league? Kirk Cousins or Dylan Gabriel? I'll take this one. I think probably Dylan Gabriel probably has the best shot at starting this year. Kirk Cousins, that contract is just way too much for any team to take on for the Atlanta Falcons. And yeah, it seems like they're asking for a bit too much for that. So yeah, Dylan Gabriel out of those guys. And IJ, Wisely Cool, the best player in Supercoach, can see him outscoring everyone. He just has I think he's leading the league at the moment in targets and receptions and probably also yardage. He's just an absolute beast, tied to a great quarterback in Matt Stafford. Even with Devontae there, Puka Nacua is the clear one. And we saw what Stafford did with Cooper Kupp when he was that Triple Crown winner back a few years ago. So yeah, Nacua is just an absolute stud. And punter, love to hear it. Marlon's favourite saying, of course, punter. Love to hear that, mate. Thanks for throwing that one in. But guys, that will wrap things up here for our waiver wire for week 5. We've gone through that with some buy coverage, some streaming options. But I will just make note, if you are tuning in on YouTube and you would like to support the stream, we would really appreciate if you do hit that like and also ring that bell to subscribe. And you'll get notifications for when we go live each week and when we drop new shows. And yeah, we absolutely love to see it there. And also, if you've got some time, a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple platforms will just be absolute gold. Absolute gold. And yeah, would really appreciate it getting that one out there if you are enjoying the content here. Tomorrow night's show, we have talked about it massive. Again, I think my favorite show of the week, hands down, trade in and trade out for Supercoach. So if you're looking to make some moves, especially with these buys, I know for me, I'm hanging out until tomorrow night's show before I make some moves here. So yeah, make sure to tune in for that one. And then again, last night's week 4 review is in the link below. But Mav, mate, tomorrow night's trade in, trade out show. How are you feeling about that one? And final thoughts as we close this thing out.
It's huge, isn't it? The first bye week's coming in. 4 teams on bye, and some really popular Supercoach options are on bye this week too. So you're going to need coverage. You're going to need still need to make some trades. There's guys going to be making money, losing money along the way. So it's going to be a big show, a lot to unpack. We might need 3 hours to sit there and talk about it because we could be there all night. But I'm really excited to sit down and talk tomorrow night about Supercoach trades. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, me too. And hey, if it takes 3 hours, it takes 3 hours. We're there for it, and we hope you all are too. Thanks heaps for joining in to tonight's show of the Insight NFL podcast, and we'll see you all guys tomorrow night.
See ya.